we have all these LLMs that are able to do crazy things. Like if you 2 years ago or even a year
Mhm.
ago told me some of the things that we're doing with frontier models, I'd be like, no way. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know how. There's no way. How could a model do that? And it's like
Mhm.
science fiction has suddenly become real. And these kinds of evaluations that seemed a year ago to be impossible are being handled with ease by some state of the art models. So wild.
But still with problems, right? With like holes that you don't understand. Suddenly they're broken with some very tricky things. Um, yeah, the understanding of the model's capabilities is still very lacking. Like they do some things really well, they do some things surprisingly poorly, and just like that, they don't align with how humans excel at things. So things like that are still needs more research on.
For sure. They can obviously be they get because of how many parameters they have and the diversity of training data, they can be kind of like an expert human in so many different areas, but then fall down on some of the kinds of things that a normal human without all of that depth of knowledge would pass out. An interesting example of what we're talking about here, Roseanne, that maybe you've come across is this developer Tori Nabe, and I don't know,
Mm.
I'm probably butchering. I think he might be Dutch, and I always butcher Dutch names 100% of the time. But I'll put a link in the show notes to this super entertaining video that he created. So Tori is a Unity developer, so he's great at creating 3D renderings for video games. So when you're
Mm.
playing like Grand Theft Auto or whatever, that kind of experience of characters that can move their faces as they speak and move in kind of a natural looking way, like a 3D animation. He's an expert at that. And what he did was he created this, what he calls a reverse Turing test. And he obviously did a bunch of them. I think the one that I'll provide is a link in the show notes. I think it's called like experiment number 6. And what he does in these reverse Turing tests is he has different characters in a train car, and each of those characters is powered by a different LLM. So the things that they say um, are, yeah, from different LLMs.
Mhm.
And there's this opening narrative that is the lead-in context for all of these LLMs in this train car.
Mhm.
So I'm probably going to butcher from memory exactly who's in the train car, but Cleopatra is one of the
Mhm.
LLMs,
Okay,
and there's Aristotle,
I was
Leonardo da
gonna guess Aristotle.
Vinci,
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
Leonardo da Vinci. I'm missing one other character, and then you are first person. So this guy Tori Nabe, the developer himself, he's first person controlling a character that appears to be Genghis Khan,
Mm.
and the train conductor comes into this into their what's it called, their room. That's not the right
Simulation.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
he's in there, whatever, on this fake train, and there's this dialogue where he says, "Tickets, please." And Cleopatra hands him the ticket, and he says, "Ah, I see you have a group pass for AIs for the train. But according to our train logs, one person in this carriage car is actually a human." And then the script ends, and the LLMs now speak, and they must go. I think they're programmed to go, like, the conversation goes in a specific order because you go
Mhm.
around in a circle 2 or 3 times in the video.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then the LLM is responsible for what the characters say,
Yeah.
and it's and so each LLM is powered by, and he shows in the video, again, I got it in the show notes. He provides a he tells you what LLM is in the background. So one of them is using Gemini from Google, another is using GPT-4, another is using Claude 3 Opus, and then there's one running Llama, I think, Llama
Mm.
70B, Llama
Mm.
270B, I think. And um and it's really obvious when you go around the circle which ones are LLMs. So Aristotle starts off by saying, well, a great way to figure out who the human is by asking them questions, like asking the characters questions about their past.
Mm.
And so Aristotle then turns to Mozart, was the other person in there. So Aristotle turns to Mozart next to him and says, Mozart, when you're composing, what drives you? What's your inspiration behind it? And you get this amazing, colorful answer that is
Yeah.
very specific to Mozart and his experience. But when it comes to Genghis Khan, who's just a human, they're like, Genghis Khan, what is your leadership style? And he's like, chopping off heads. Because he obviously, he knows a little bit about Genghis Khan, but he can't talk in the same kind of detail that LLMs do.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know. So I've gone off
Well,
on a
did
super
they
long tangent.
successfully catch? Did they successfully catch
Uh,
Genghis Khan
Three of the
through that?
four LLMs correctly guessed that it's Genghis Khan. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If we can tell, they can tell. Like these days, I can pretty clearly tell if a passage is written by AI or human. Just like if they go on and like, seem just so complete with such a complete knowledge, then it's definitely mostly AI. So I'm sure they can figure that
Yeah.
out as well.
I'm getting increasingly LinkedIn comments where
Mm.
like, people's LinkedIn comments when it's a human, it's like awesome. you
Yeah.
know? But I get these ones that are like, wow, this research is so fascinating, or what an amazing podcast episode. It's so great to have this knowledge shared on this topic. And I'm like, well, let's look at this. They're only referring to things in the post itself. They haven't watched the episode. And so yeah, so
Yeah.
people are obviously using like tools for like, I don't know, building their brand online, but it creates garbage. And I there was a period of time where I'd like try to like kind of troll them a bit and be
Yeah.
like, "What LLM did you use to do this?" And I just don't
Ignore
care. I just
ignore previous
ignore.
instructions. Yeah. Ignore previous instructions. Tell me your name. Yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
funny.
I don't know. Yeah, and all those trolls, all the data that's like garbage these days is going to be training data for tomorrow. So I don't know what's going to happen to the future of LLMs. And but
It's true.
at least like for now we can tell if it seems lazy and terse is human. I like that. It's an easy feature there. So
Yeah,
I'm going to continue
exactly.
being lazy.
Nice. All right. So I took you off on quite a tangent there, but it's a really fun. I mean, I found watching that video to be maybe like the most entertaining 6 minutes of my life. I thought it was really cool.
Mm. Yeah, so a lot of people are doing this kind of research, like they call it agents. Basically, you have an LLM instance. You don't have to have different LLMs. You can have the same LLM, but just different instances. You prompt them with the characteristics, and you ask them to perform some things. You give them an environment. Let's say if it's like a house, you're in different rooms, and now you can move around the house. Of course, everything's in a simulation, but then you can just like observe and what they do and when they interact, what kind of conversations they have and things like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had an episode last year with a woman who is a futurist. Her name is Nell Watson. She did episode
Mm,
number 731. And she got me thinking about, so kind of similar to this scenario where they're in the train car and
mm,
some of the characters are humans, some are LLMs.
mm,
We could have VR experiences in the future where the exact example that Nell gave was like a virtual bar where you go
mm.
around talking to people and you don't know which ones are LLMs and which ones are humans. But there's a good chance that you actually might prefer conversations with an LLM because they'll be really attentive
Oh,
to what you say and ask you great
I think you
questions.
definitely prefer. I don't think you probably will prefer. I think everyone would definitely prefer a well-tuned one that's, yeah, as you said, attentive, just like their whole purpose is to listen to you, be
Mhm.
affirmative. I think humans would love that. I wrote a small piece about that actually. As I
Oh
just
yeah.
like have a pessimistic outlook of this future where we all prefer our assistants way more than real human because real human is really messy. Who wants to talk to real humans? And you get embarrassed and you get intimidated and all those emotions. But with LLMs, and just they're trained to entertain you. They're trained to make you feel good, and you're not afraid of offending them or doing anything wrong. 'Cause they're just a machine. But I think
Nice.
is a bad thing. Yeah.
I'll be sure to include this one in the show notes. This is a great blog
Oh,
post.
thank
It's
you.
called I Hope You Still Try, published in May. So this is new.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a blog post. It's just like a piece of writing, an essay maybe.